All right, guys, here we are back with episode 40 of the HYPEWORKS podcast, the big 40, with our guest today, Mr. Andy Culligan.
Hey guys.
Thanks for coming on,
How's
Andy.
it going?
We were just talking beforehand that you are our second Irish guest. You've got the Irish accent. I'm from Scotland, and Jake's from England, so we got the full
Hello.
British
Be careful.
British and Ireland.
Hold on a second.
Cool. Great to have you on, Andy. Why don't we just talk about what you're doing now, what you're working on right now?
Sure. So to go back a bit as well, to how it led to what I'm doing now is probably important as well. So I ended up, I was in a full-time CMO position for a number of years, or in various CMO positions, and left a full-time position back in 2021 because I was just wrecked, to be honest with you. A young family, and it was off the back of COVID, and I was at a very high-growth company, and I'd basically been sprinting a marathon for about 6 or 7 years. So I was just a lot of things came together, and I was just you know what, I'm just done, So I left that business and didn't really have anything to go to. I just wanted a bit of a break, and then people started reaching out to me saying, hey, would you be interested in full-time work? And I was like, no, thanks, but I can help. And that help just sort of escalated from there. It just kept going, and more companies were reaching out and asking, hey, full-time employment? And I was like, no, but I can come on, give you a hand. And from there, I was like, oh shit, there's actually a business in this. And my apologies, I'm 30 seconds in, I've already cursed. But
yeah, it's fine here.
Good. But there's a business model in it. So I started to build off that. And for the guts of a year or so, I was by myself doing it, stepping in and doing fractional CMO support, chief revenue officer support for fast growing SaaS companies. And then what happened after that was a project came along that required more than just me. So I brought in a team, and we basically came in as an external marketing team is probably the best way to put it. So we have all aspects of the marketing mix in there. And then that we've done a number of projects together over the past 2.5 years almost. And off the back of that, I was like, okay, well, to really scale this and make it more into an agency model, I want to take it away from my own personal brand, which is just andyculligan.com, and make it onto something else where I can also bring in other CMOs and other VPs of marketing and so on. That's not just requiring my time. So I brought the guys across, and we created a new brand called Purple Path, which is a new go-to-market agency. We launched in September. We've already signed our first couple of customers, and we already have other customers that we've been working with in the past already. So they sort of came onto the new account. But that's basically the new thing that we're working on is trying to build out that go-to-market agency. Whilst I still have existing customers on my own brand under the fractional CMO support, but in the near future, a lot of that will then move over to the Purple Path. So yeah.
So I got a question. I was doing some background reading. So this fractional CMO concept, I've heard of it before. Yeah. Was that something that you were conscious of before you started your business, or did you just kind of fall into that? Because I feel like it's not really in vogue right now. It was maybe 2 years ago. Everyone was talking about fractional CMO as a thing.
I think it's probably so. My impression of it is probably it's everybody's a fractional CMO at the moment. To go back to your point, hey, did I know what a fractional CMO was? I had no idea. I didn't even know. I had never even heard the phrase. The first time I recognized it the first time I realized I was a fractional CMO was when I was introduced to a board by one of my customers as their fractional CMO, and I was like, what is that even? So, and then that was probably September, October 2021. And then from there, that's where I was like, okay, that's what everybody's using to coin what I do. So let's just call it that. And now, I see so many people even reach out to me being like, oh, I see that you're a fractional CMO. I also want to be a fractional CMO, or I am a fractional CMO. I'm not managing to get any business. Help. How do I get business? And a lot of the times it's people that don't really have that much experience, and they just don't want to do the work to get the experience, and then just jump out of a full-time position and be like, okay, now I'm fractional. So how does this work? It's you need to have quite a bit of experience. You need to build up your network over a number of years in order to make sure it will work.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, you think it's something that people have kind of this started as a good concept, and now people have kind of blown it out of proportions, and like you've got a lot of bad actors now. And did that contribute you to kind of dropping the whole fractional CMO thing and like going down a traditional agency model?
Not really. I mean, it's probably in the background a little bit playing a role, but I think the issue is right in marketing, especially in tech, and if you're in a fast growing startup or scale up or whatever, the need for the marketer or whatever type of marketer you have in the organization changes rapidly, especially if you're working with founders, right? Founders, like, they see shiny things every couple of million in ARR. They see somebody, oh, this other person's been from, gone from 2 to 5 million ARR, or this person over here has gone from 5 million to 10 million. Let's get rid of our marketing effort, bring in somebody new. And then after a little bit of time, they're like, oh no, wait, actually it's the wrong person. We need to find somebody new, and we go with this person then. So like the turnover in that head of or CMO role or VP role is like massive, right? I think the tenure of a CMO, average tenure of a CMO in a fast-paced SaaS company is like 18 months or something crazy, right? Which is nothing, right? So that's definitely played a role. But for me, like, why I've gone and created this new go-to-market agency is purely a scaling thing, actually, because I found that I wasn't able to keep up with the demand of what was coming towards my business, because everybody wanted to work with me. Like, as I said, I've put a lot of work into creating my network over the past 5 to 10 years, and a lot of my business comes from LinkedIn, as an example, and that's somewhere where I've put a lot of focus on. And also I've got good relationships with VCs because of the some of the portfolio companies I've worked with for full-time jobs, but also in a consultancy basis. And I was finding it hard to keep up with the amount of business that was coming in, right? I didn't want to say no to business just because of my time constraints, right? So that's why I said, okay, let's try to figure this out in a different way that's not just like such a focus on me, but more of a focus on offering marketing support. The fractional CMO piece will be part of that. And if they would need a fractional CMO, we'll be able to place me, if I have the time, or somebody else. And that's why we have other people in the background that can go in and slot into that role. So it's less so about it being like diluted. I think that it is an issue, but it's not something that's been a real issue for me up until this point in time. But it was more of a scalability question.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I have a lot of questions. Okay. Fractional CMO here.
Go for it.
Somewhat joking. I did a couple of months of fractional CMO, but my whole, I guess, qualm with the role was that the CEO and the rest of the team, the heads of marketing and the other people in the organization also need to know how to treat you as well. But that's a bit of a separate topic to what I was actually about to ask you, Andy. I was more interested about your scaling up approach. Okay, so imagine you've got this bootstrapped startup. Okay, I mean, you could even look at it from your own perspective. You're now a bootstrapped startup as well. So I really want to understand that you've got loads of leads. The leads are coming in, regardless of whether it's you or a client. What do you do? What's your process to map it out? You've got to look at outsourcing, or you want to hire. What's your go-to-market strategy for your go-to-market agency?
So the question is, they've got a load of leads. So we're bootstrap startup, right? Is the use case we're saying here? They've got lots of leads coming in through the door.
Yeah, they're getting 3 or 4 leads a day, we'll say.
3 or 4 leads a day. Okay, what's their sales team set up?
They're not heaving, so they haven't got loads of cash flow.
Okay. Do they have a sales team?
They don't have a sales team.
What type of company is it?
It's a SaaS company. They've got a product. It's application based. I guess it will cost anywhere between about 300 to 1,000 US monthly subscription a month.
Okay. So they don't have a sales team. They have nobody in sales.
Currently, no.
For that price, like if you're talking about $1,000 a month type of thing, you're going to have somebody that's going to be able to give a touch there, because it's too high of a price point for there not to be a touch from a human, probably, right? For lower size deals, you'd be able to then create like a product led model with that. But that's a separate conversation. But you're essentially trying to run two different go to market strategies there when you're doing the product led and the sales led. But if you have, that's where I'd start with. Okay, like you're bringing in leads already, they're closing and they're turning into $1,000 a month pieces of business, and you're not having any sales effort go after them. I'd be like, okay, well, we try to get more out of what you're already bringing in first and foremost, especially if you're bootstrapped, right? If you're bootstrapped, then you're not going to have the budget to try to really go properly scale it. If we can figure that out and make sure that we're able to close more from what you're already bringing in, then we can build on top of that. Understand, okay, which channels are we actually managing to bring stuff in via? Like in this case, for example, Jake, what channels are working well for them? Like what are they already doing?
LinkedIn and YouTube.
LinkedIn and YouTube. Okay, well, leads coming in from YouTube is probably a bit far-fetched based on especially from that perspective, performance leads. I would say YouTube is probably more of a brand channel, if anything. But maybe if they're managing to drive proper conversions from YouTube and they're managing to get stuff over the line there, I'd be surprised. But stranger things have happened, I guess. LinkedIn as well as a performance channel, again, interesting. I would see that more of a brand channel nowadays as well, because lead gen on LinkedIn hasn't really been performing based on how LinkedIn have actually built the platform over the past couple of years. But let's assume they're still managing to get email addresses from LinkedIn, and they're very unlikely to be getting high conversion rate from stuff that they're pushing away from LinkedIn onto dedicated landing pages, for example, from a performance perspective. But maybe. So if those channels are performing well for them, it'd be interesting. Okay, what are you doing in order to hack the model here so that it's working well on LinkedIn? We can maybe do more of it, and the same thing with YouTube. Based on my experience with both of those channels right now across numerous different businesses, I also see that it's hard to get performance out of them, and that you're seeing more of a brand play out of them. If that's the case and they're managing to get like good leads from those channels, it might be that, hey, we might be onto something here, not just for those channels, but generally from a product market fit perspective. Because if those channels that are traditional, or traditionally now at the moment, quite good from a brand play perspective, then we might want to replicate whatever we're doing there onto newer channels. So let's take, for example, Google. So especially for that product-led model to get more into the top of the funnel, we might want to invest in Google. If we don't have a sales play, though, that's why it'd be also a bit surprising to me that LinkedIn is working well, especially if they don't have a sales play that are putting any touch on stuff that's coming in via LinkedIn, because it's very like driving like product signups via LinkedIn has never worked for me. But yeah, like again, I would probably look at, okay, if it's working well there, point being, if it's working well on both of those channels, then there's a good product market fit there somehow, better than most. So I try to replicate that over to other channels, basically, is the broader answer for that.
And in terms of scaling the team, like let's say that you need a development team, would you like recommend as like your position, or where's the scope stop for you?
So if you need developers, I have worked with dev teams, like outsourced dev teams, for example, in Sri Lanka, and I've worked with dev teams in Sri Lanka and in India and in Manila, right? The guys in Manila have been relatively okay. The guys in Sri Lanka have been very good, and I know a specific tech that I work with in the UK, or that I've also invested in the UK. They've got their entire platform built from the guys in Sri Lanka, and they use them fully as their dev team. They've been really, really good. I've got the potential for outsourced dev workers from Hungary, which is more expensive. So Hungarians are going to cost you more or less the same as what you would expect across the rest of Europe. But to answer your question, do I have people in my back pocket that I could probably recommend? Yes. Is it my focus, or does that really often come up? No. It's probably the answer to that.
Okay. Interesting. Good to know. So for your own business, what's the plan? Where do you get your leads?
So
The network, the referral?
yeah, so it depends, right? Like lately, we've been doing a bit of PR, which has been interesting. Just sort of beg, borrow, and steal in order to get into news stories, right? Which has been cool. Like one of my co-founders got in Forbes yesterday. I was in some print media in Ireland there a couple of weeks ago, just after the launch of the business. So there's been some stuff coming in from that. That wouldn't really be a massive focus. We do a podcast, so we have now. I think right now once we have all the rest of the episodes recorded or in the calendar, and that we'll probably have 25, 30 episodes or something, which we're pushing heavily. On top of that, we were at SaaStock the week before last in Dublin, which was a great event. So we managed to get a good few leads off the back of that, and we'll continue to go to those SaaS events in the future. I'm appearing on podcasts like this one, and I do a couple of podcasts every
Alex,
week.
can we not have the exclusive?
Nah, we're not quite there yet. We're not Joe Rogan level yet. Come on.
Not yet.
No.
So yeah, there's a number of things. I'm also one of my co-founders as well has just done an event. He's moderated an event for VCs, which took place last week. So we're getting into the VC world so that they can put us in front of their portfolio companies. So I'd say it's a lot of like events and content creation, but mostly content creation in the form of podcasts.
We were just talking about this actually, me and Jake. Like, there's such a focus on digital now, and like you said, there are events like that SaaStock event in Dublin, and offline seems to be kind of overlooked in a way, because everyone, like if you're following, like I'm on X, Twitter, like I follow all these SaaS guys and like digital nomad guys, and it's just like, let's post on Reddit, let's post on Twitter, let's post on this, and it's like maybe they're overlooking the offline stuff.
It depends on what you're selling, right? So for me, I'm selling a service. So, and it's a relatively expensive service in comparison to what a volume SaaS play would be, right? So if I'm a volume SaaS company, so let's take, for example, Leadfeeder or now Dealfront. So when I was the CMO at Leadfeeder, I considered looking at events as a channel that we could bring in more leads, right? But the economics didn't make sense because our customer acquisition cost for the amount of leads that we'd be able to bring in there is just too high in comparison to what we get from a lifetime value if they were to close into customers. So in a volume SaaS play, so in the play, like Jake made an example there before, like, okay, $300 to $1,000 a month. Let's say that you've got companies that are only paying you, or customers are only paying you like less than $100 a month. Events are an expensive thing to go to. So let's say, for example, I go to an event and I capture 100 leads at that, and I'm a volume SaaS company, and my maximum price level is $100 a month. I maybe get 50 leads out of that. Out of those 50 leads, maybe 20 of those actually end up paying customers. The question is, if even 20, right? The question is that actually making sense from a spend perspective in comparison to some of the other performance channels that will drive a higher conversion? For example, Google Ads. So like you'll have volume SaaS companies spend like $100,000 a month, if not more, on Google, on AdWords, right? But because they're able to drive thousands of signups into the app on a monthly basis doing it that way, in comparison to going to an event. Now, if you're a high ticket SaaS, if you're doing like $100,000 a year contracts type of thing, so we're talking about 10K monthly recurring revenue for specific customers, then 100% it makes sense to go to events like industry specific events, and getting face-to-face conversations with those buyers, because obviously that's a massive relationship build. So I think it depends on what your go-to-market is from a price point perspective. So whether you're going high volume SaaS, which is more like a B2C play, or like high ticket SaaS, which is more that relationship build and having numerous influencers or buyers from a company when they're going to purchase, and those deal cycles can last like 18, 24 months type of thing, right?
Yeah.
There you go, McGregor. There's your answer. I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I've found that out. You know, I've had a dabble different kinds of business models. So I would fully agree. I think, you know, the higher your ticket, the more important those handshakes are, for sure.
100%. 100%. Like because you need to build the trust and you need to build a relationship, but not just with one person. It's normally like in the case of those enterprise size deals, you're probably talking up to 10 people, right? That are going to be somewhat involved in this, that you're going to have to probably surround, right?
Right.
Yeah, we're 20 minutes in here. We haven't mentioned AI. That must be a record for this pod. I just dropped it. Yeah, what's your thoughts on that, Andy? Like, what's how are you using AI in your workflow? Are you worried about AI? Are you like enthusiastic about it? Like, what's your perspective?
I'm not worried about it. I think there's still a lot of bullshit around it. You know, I think people are saying that they know how to use it and it's saving them so much time, etc., etc. But then actually, when you go and dig into it, it's like, okay, that's not really like too impressive, to be honest with you. Um, there's there's certain things like, let's take practical stuff, right? So, I work with fast growing tech companies or fast growing scale ups, right? So startups are probably a bit too small for me. Like, they just don't have there's too much operational stuff and they don't have the team in place in order to move quick enough. Scale ups would be somewhere between like over that sort of 5 million in revenue. Those scale ups are normally trying to get people on board quickly, so they're trying to hire people quickly. With hiring people quickly, you need to get a lot of job descriptions out the door. So what I'm finding is to come up with job descriptions for specific people or specific roles, like ChatGPT is amazing. Like, stuff that I used to spend hours before in the past putting together, I'd ask ChatGPT, hey, I'm looking for an SEO manager for a SaaS company. The SaaS company is 10 million plus. I need them to focus on X, Y, and Z. Can you give me back a job description that I can put out? And it'd send me that back, and I'd spend 2 minutes cleaning up, and that's what I could use in my job description for the job ad, right? Which is, you might underestimate, like, if you're in a hiring position, and which I have been many times, it's like, that's a pain in the ass to have to come up with all those job descriptions. Like, that saved me hours, like literally hours, by doing it that way. And it's not a sexy use case by any means of AI, but it's one of those things that I've heard more people talk about as well. So like, others in the space of us said, oh, I do that the same thing, you know. There's also like other interesting things that are happening on the AI front, like with email marketing, for example. Like, I work with a guy, you may or may not have heard of these guys. They're called the Sousa brothers, right? And they're based out of Portugal. Luis and Rui. They've started a newsletter called the AI. Oh, I can't remember, but they have like 100,000 people signed up to this newsletter that they're sending out like on a weekly basis, and it's all things AI. But they've now started a quasi product, which is like an email outreach tool, which basically helps build your own total addressable market. So the list to which you're going to send to, and then the emails keep on getting better and better and better based on the open rates and click rates across the emails that are going out to that total addressable market. So it's an interesting use case. Now, is it scalable yet? No. They haven't fully productized it yet, and it still requires quite a lot of human input in order for it to work. But I think like use cases like that are super interesting. There's all the talk at SaaS Stock a couple of weeks ago was around Clay. I don't know if you've heard about Clay. So everybody was talking about Clay. So you better go out and have a look at Clay. But I don't know if that's the new like hype. I don't know. I need to go dig into it myself. The team are using it already. I haven't looked at it properly myself, so I can't comment enough on it. There's also a lot of like AI conversational listening tools, like the likes of Gong and things like that are then like listening to big chunks of audio and then being able to find meaning in the conversations that are being had, right? Like with prospects, etc. What are the different themes that came out of it? It's basically a recording tool which then takes the themes out of it, right? So like there's things that are happening which are interesting. I've heard others talk about like, oh, the role of the SDR is going to be taken over by AI, and there is like a platform out there now called the AI SDR and stuff. I can't imagine us being in a world where an AI is going to start doing cold calling and like proper LinkedIn outreach and that being receptive to prospects. Like I just maybe, but like right now,
I got a friend who's trying it. He's he set up a company that does it. Yeah, I think mixed. Right now, but who knows if it gets really good? Then could happen.
It's the thing, like I don't know. I think on the marketing side, there's plenty that can be done. Like around automating certain elements of the marketing mix, and also for gathering information. I think it's very, very useful. So competitive intel, for example, understanding what your competitors are doing across the internet, as an example. Pulling that type of information. But
so basically, Andy, what we're saying is, like a CMO will not be replaced by AI. Like that, we're fairly confident that's it's not going to happen.
I can't see it. There's still like the need for there's still a huge amount of my time is still spent like dealing with people. So I still see there's certain elements that could be replaced. Like for example, coming up with a marketing plan, as an example, could be replaced. But there's still, as long as there's people that need to be managed and need to be handled and looked after, etc., then there's still going to be the role for the captain of the ship, let's say, right?
Yeah.
Without it, how are those people going to be looked after, basically?
Sure.
I'd love to give my take for a second here.
Give your take.
I think you already kind of know what my take is. So my take's like this, Andy. My take is that I don't think everyone will be replaced, but I think operational roles like social media managers, personal assistants, they'll be replaced. So full disclosure here, I run a service. I'm a fractional CMO. And basically what I do is I automate a lot of those heavy lifting roles around content management, distribution, and email marketing. So I've already emailed, my email marketing goes a bit like this. I'll get your lead. I'll get your email. I'll scrape information from your website and your LinkedIn, and I'll customize an outreach to you. Now, the only thing that I do is I have human oversight just to double check everything, but I don't have to. And in fact, if you download one of my automation templates from my website, you'll get an outreach, but it won't be from a person. It'll be from an AI, but it'll be sent via a person's email address. Now, when you respond to that, an email will be drafted by the AI, but a human will come in and just double check the response before hitting send. So that's like a use case where hours is being saved from you download a product, outreach is automated, but it's customized as well. And then you reply, and then the draft to your response is already in the inbox when I open it. So the human element has been reduced from what would take maybe 10 people down to 2. So my take is that it's the operations of such as like managing content, pushing content, writing copy, copywriting, even for SEO. It might need human oversight, but the actual development, or as research as you might have put it, I think that those are the kind of roles that will be not necessarily replaced, but augmented and accelerated.
Yeah, it's just so you won't need as many people in those roles as the people that you're going to have to have in those roles need to be people that know how to query the AI in order to get that information out of it. Right? They need to know how to use the AI to get that information quicker, basically.
I do think so. I agree. But I also think that in marketing, there is a new space that's opening for the AI automation marketer. Somebody that understands how to do those operational roles and can automate the sequence from end to end. That's what I think is opening up. So tools like Zapier, Make.com, N8N, I'm not sure if that's how you say it. What's the one? Alex? Gumloop. There we go.
Yeah.
There's loads of them now. So I think there's a whole space opening there. I think social media managers as they exist today will be gone. And I think content creators are a different category of people to social media managers now.
Yeah, I think the content creator guys are having a massively hard time at the minute. Like,
Yeah.
it's like I can see it with some people that are closer to me, right? That they've run successful agencies that would have worked within the SaaS space, and if in the most recent past, if they're just purely focused on content creation, right? I'm seeing them like really struggle, going out of business almost because people are just using AI to create the content themselves, right? So
Yeah,
written
yeah.
content, long form content, short form content, blogs, etc. Like all of that's being written by AI, and you're getting somebody on the team to just throw their eye over it and then just throwing it up, right? I'm not saying that's the best way to do things, but it is what's being done, right? So yeah, it's
So
interesting.
what's the future then, Andy? Like, what do you see, like for people like us, like marketers, CMO, like agency owners, like is it a bright future? Like, what's should we be trying to sell our businesses, and like what's the best outcome?
I don't think so. I think look, we just need to roll with the punches, lads. It's just how it is, right? Like Jake, you said it. Like you're on top of what's happening on the technology side, right? So as long as you stay informed and understand how you can make the most of it and be able to move with it, I think that's really important. I still see on my side like the relationship building with your clients is still really important, right? So with customers, like I don't think we'll ever be in a space that you're just able to just automate everything. Like people need to be working together with people, right? Like I see it, and I see it in my own business. Like the more successful projects that we have, the longer term projects that we have, are the ones that we've really gotten ingrained within the businesses, and the ones that we've managed to really build good relationships with people. And they're the ones that, like, I've been working with businesses now for over 3 years. So I'll just continue to do that. Like, if you want any advice in terms of how to make the fractional gig work, my experience is get ingrained within the businesses and build good relationships with people internally, because that's where you're going to end up. Like, that's where you're going to end up with longevity for yourself, right? So
Yeah,
I
it
don't
makes
see I
sense.
don't see it massive changing, man. I think we're just going to have more tools at our disposal, and it's going to make things be able to quicker to execute. And as long as you stay on top of those things, then I think you're going to be fine.
I kind of ask. We always ask guests at the end of the show,
Yeah,
like, what's your
yeah.
big prediction? So, um, yeah, I mean, you're basically saying, Andy, like, yeah, like just get engage with clients, engage with your customers.
People keep on asking me what's the big prediction for next year, what's going to
Yeah.
happen next year. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I really don't know. Like, so like, there's definitely going to be more tools in tech. I think the speed at which we're going to see tools being launched is going to be massive, right? So,
We need a
if
soundbite. We need a soundbite here.
okay. So
We've had some
we're
really
gonna
good ones in the past. Some really good ones.
we're gonna see a massive explosion of tools and technologies being released, which are going to be reliant on AI, right? The thing is, with AI, we're sort of at the hands of the gods a little bit when it comes to things like ChatGPT, right? So if a lot of stuff is based on ChatGPT, as an example, if they make some changes on the ChatGPT side, then that's going to affect whatever technology is built on top of it, which could basically put them out of business overnight, which is a threat, right? But let's see. I think, though, there's going to be so many tools that we're going to be able to use within the next year. It's about the marketers that are able to use those to the best of their abilities and stay on top of them, like what Jake has just shown, right? They're the ones that are going to win, because people are interested in AI. It's still a hot topic. It's going to become even a hotter topic. And if you're able to use the tools and technology to best of your disposal, then you're going to win.
People do get fatigued with AI, though, for sure. I personally think it goes more like level one, which is the AI, your interface, large language model. Level two, which is more like the automation, the integration of those agents into your workflows. And then number three, which is probably more along the lines of like integrating micro SaaS, like as you've already mentioned, the technology proliferates and gets better. But I think that the model for ChatGPT, reliant on the gods, it's not like it will close down. It's that they're going to segment it. So you're going to get enterprise super duper ChatGPT, but it will cost you $1 million a year, down to everyman's ChatGPT, which will cost you like $10 a month. And depending on which level you're at will be, the proficiency of which the tool is going to work.
It's interesting. Yeah, it depends. So another thing that I have a direct experience with as well is like if you're dependent on another tool to build your technology, you need to be very, very careful. I'll give you an example. At Leadfeeder, when I first started Leadfeeder, we were dependent on Google Analytics data. So we were dependent. What we did was we recognized the companies that were visiting your website based on a reverse IP lookup, and that reverse IP lookup that populated all of the content within our product, within our UI, was coming directly from two fields in Google Analytics. And a lot of our competitors were doing the same thing. Nowadays, you go and you'll see that people are using tracking scripts. So if you go onto a free trial, you need to put the tracking script in your site, and that will start to recognize the companies based off a database that's being built. However, back then it was based off Google Analytics. And from one day to the next, February 4th to February 5th, Google Analytics stopped populating those fields. So put like half the industry out of business overnight, like because they didn't have their own tracking script. They didn't have a database built in the background. We then we managed well to move on to our own tracking script, which was already in testing phase. So we did okay. But point being, I'm always very wary. Like if you're building a product that's based off feeding data from another product because it's open source, for example, that can be very dangerous if that other company decides to make any changes, and that can basically kill whatever you have there overnight, right?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's get you on, Andy, again in like a year's time and see where we're at in terms of like all this stuff. It's be an interesting conversation.
Good. It was great. It flew by as well. It really did.
Yeah, it did.
Unbelievable insights.
Thanks, lads.
Grateful.
Cool. Thanks, guys. See you in the next episode.
Cheers, lads.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.